You might be here at eTrailer looking for some hitch cargo carriers. But with all the different options we have available, which one is the right one for you and your adventure? So today, we're going to be talking about fixed aluminum cargo carriers versus steel folding carriers. Let's go. We're going to break this down into two main categories. There's aluminum versus steel, and then there's fixed versus folding. While you can mix and match those different factors, each of them have ways that they affect, like the ease of use, your weight capacity, how sturdy the basket is, how well does it carry your cargo, and understanding all those different factors will help you figure out which one is the best for you. So let's start with our aluminum fixed cargo carrier. Most aluminum cargo carriers are fixed, and even then, those fixed aluminum cargo carriers may have a steel shank. Now there are exceptions to the rules. There are aluminum folding cargo carriers, but we'll talk about that one later. This one is popular because with an aluminum carrier, it's lighter. So you usually can get a larger carrier without having a lot of weight that you have to deal with. If I personally was storing this carrier in my garage and I had to be the one to install it all by myself, I'd get an aluminum carrier because I like the space, I just don't like the weight. Some other common features of aluminum cargo carriers is going to be the heat as well as the sturdiness. So for heat, this carrier has been sitting out pretty much all morning and it still feels comfortable to the touch. I do not feel burned or anything that makes me uncomfortable about holding and using this cargo carrier. So that's awesome. Another thing too is that compared to steel cargo carriers, people are not as sure about the sturdiness of the anchor points because you can anchor your hooks and your S hooks around the rails. So I do recommend taking a look at our review videos here at eTrailer where we really shake around the cargo carriers to help you decide which one is made of good construction and manufactured well. Also, some people like to put their own eye bolts and anchor points within the carrier as an alternative to strapping around those rails. For steel cargo carriers, you have that strong, durable steel protecting your cargo and making sure it's all contained. But that also means a lot of extra weight if you need to move it around your garage, your shed, and back onto your vehicle. Most steel cargo carriers have a black powder coat finish, which is nice and sleek and good looking. But even with that black powder coat, this feels warm to the touch. It's not something I would want to be carrying all the way from the shed to the vehicle without taking breaks or wearing gloves. So that's something to consider. Plus, the black powder coat does look good. If it does get scratched up, I do recommend touching it up with a paint pen just to maintain that corrosion resistance. But the versatility of the steel cargo carriers for anchoring cargo down, that's what I do like about this style. Because I've seen a bunch of carriers that have fork-mounted bike racks in them, so you can secure a bike in your cargo carrier. You have different accessories to make it easier to strap things down, and a lot of people trust the steel rails more than they trust aluminum rails. I personally think it's perfectly fine and they're both sturdy, but also that ease of mind is really important before you go on your long road trip. So that's something worth considering too. And back to that versatility, it's usually the steel cargo carriers that can fold up to be more compact and portable against your vehicle. That's to make up for their weight. So rather than having to take your carrier off and on, you could just fold it up and then now you can back into your garage and not take up as much space. So let's talk about that, folding versus fixed. Included with a folding cargo carrier are some extra things like extra cost for a cargo carrier that folds, extra time and hassle it might take to use its different features, take out pins and bolts, but it also has extra functionality. For example, maybe this takes up a lot of space behind your vehicle. Folding it up makes it more compact and portable. And for those that have it stored in their garage and in their shed, some people think it takes up less space and it's easier to store when it folds up versus when it's fixed. There are more points that are moving though with a folding cargo carrier. So rather than a fixed carrier, which is just a straight shank, this one has joints or pivot points. And for that reason, most carriers, even aluminum carriers, that fold still have a steel shank. So even our aluminum folding cargo carrier option here at eTrailer has a steel shank because when you have that pivot point, it's much preferable to have that steel construction rather than pivot on an aluminum shank. And with that in mind, let's talk about that movement. Fixed cargo carriers usually have less movement and are a bit more stable compared to folding or tilting cargo carriers. Now that does depend too on what type of securement method does it have. Does it have an anti-rattle bolt? Does it only use a hitch pin, because those usually will have more wobble in the shank? Also, when we talk about weight capacity and the sturdiness, what type of floor does it have? Does it require an evenly distributed weight, or can it handle more weight on one small spot? So for steel cargo carriers, the welds are the key point there. Sometimes they have a 500-pound weight capacity, but that's an evenly distributed weight capacity. And it might be the same too for your aluminum cargo carrier. So just because it looks sturdy, it feels sturdy, and it says it has a lot of weight capacity, you still have to be mindful of how does it accomplish that weight capacity. Another quick thing is just double check what type of hitch receiver you have. If you have an 1¼ inch hitch, we have cargo carriers that fit into that. If you have maybe a low weight rated hitch when it comes to the tongue weight, even if your cargo carrier has a 500-pound weight capacity, if your hitch only has a 120-pound weight capacity, that's going to be the maximum that you can carry. And you also have to be mindful that your cargo carrier adds that total weight capacity. If your carrier weighs 20 pounds, then you have less weight that you can carry in terms of cargo. So all of that works together to find the right fit for your vehicle. And then there's even more facets and features that you have to consider too. For example, with fixed cargo carriers, the shank is usually straight out. So the height of your hitch is the height of your cargo carrier. But what if you don't have much ground clearance, and when you weight it down, you have even less clearance? So then you start looking at carriers that give you that rise. But if you get too much of a rise, your carrier might sit too high up and you won't be able to open up your hatch. And then there's also things like with the fixed cargo carriers. Some of them have rises, some of them are straight across, and some of them have different ways of folding up. Where does the pin sit? Is a pin easy to access? Do you have enough space between your vehicle to access that pin? And if you can't access that pin, will you be able to still use it? And when it folds up, does it fold up too close to your vehicle? So after you understand the basic concepts of fixed versus folding cargo carriers, hopefully that gives you a good foundation to tackle those other features, because we have a lot of resources for you here at eTrailer. We have videos on different cars, we have pictures, we have descriptions, we also have measurements to help you find out the best fit for you, your cargo, and your vehicle. And if you have other questions, don't be afraid to ask them, because now you have all that information to ask an informed question right here at eTrailer. But today, this was about fixed aluminum cargo carriers versus steel folding cargo carriers. My name is Evangeline, and I hope you enjoyed the journey.